It's true, everyday, ordinary people everywhere do extraordinary things. Be extraordinary.
All right, welcome back. I trust that your lunch break was as delightful as the engaging discussions we've been enjoying together thus far. Ladies and gentlemen, now get ready for a showstopper session that will redefine the way you view work, life, and play. Our speaker, the visionary expert Michael Koch, is a seasoned professional with over 25 years of experience in designing and constructing projects for leading Fortune 500 companies. As the owner of a strategic development and project management firm, he has played a pivotal role in shaping the customer and employee journey for renowned brands like Canada Goose, Common Living, and One Medical. Diving deep into the evolving landscapes of work, life, and play, Michael will unravel the complexities of our daily engagements from the diverse perspectives of employees to leaders. Through a lens of global experience in acquisition, construction, and product management, he'll provide a forward thinking insight into how the last decade's transformations will shape our future world, defining the next evolution of our interconnected lives and its broad reaching implications. Get ready to be inspired and enlightened as this session explores the dynamic shifts shaping our daily lives. Please join me in welcoming Michael Koch to the stage, who will share his insights on the topic, the continuing evolution, work, life, and play. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. I've often told people I'm one of the luckiest guys alive, not because I just have a great family, great kids, a beautiful wife, amazing children. I've got incredible coworkers that have worked with me for a lot of years. Some of them are here today to know a little bit about my company. We've left a couple of pieces of collateral on your table. But I'm not here to talk about my company. I'm here to talk about what's happened over the last 25 years and the rapid increase of what's happened compared to what's about to happen in an exponentially faster way. I can say that through my experiences in building worldwide, I've had people just like you said, hey, Michael, you need to come by, write a book. It's crazy some of the things you've done. Yeah, I have the opportunity to work with Mr. Bill Johnson at Ritz-Carlton, with Steve Jobs at Apple, with Jay Wiley at Samsung, working with Ken Griffin and some of the Citadel Securities efforts up in New York. I am unbelievably blessed to have worked and been exposed to some tremendously talented people. Those people are some of the, I've kind of facilitated my ways of working based upon my experiences with them and some of the things that I've learned along the way. What I've learned most importantly is what I'm going to ask you to do today. I'm going to ask you to do one thing. It's a very simple process. I'm going to ask you to change your mind. I'm going to ask you to do what others have said this morning about how you've adapted and some of the things that have been going on, et cetera, in the other sessions. But I'm going to ask you to change your mind, because what's happened over the last 10 to 15 years is going to happen at a faster rate than you've ever seen before. When you think about it, if we go backwards in time a little bit, I talk about, let's see, the 20 years of technology and the evolution of tech and how it's exploded in speeds that have never been seen before. Let's talk about the last 20 years. When people thought it was really cool when USB drives came out. All of a sudden we have Bluetooth speakers. 2007, 17 years ago, next month, the iPhone. Google Glass, Fortnite, fidget spinners, AirPods. 20 years of technology since the internet was invented in 95, loosely. We've seen things go exponentially fast. You're going to hear some things today in my session and others where it's going in directions that people aren't aware of. But I want to stay focused on the year 2007 just for a second. And this guy. Remember when he came on the stage and he said he was going to comprise 3 different products into one? It became the iPhone. Remember that? I do. It was an amazing time, a revolutionary genius. There were people over at Microsoft, without mentioning any names except on the slide, who said, why would he want to get in the market? We're dominating that market. They're not going to sell anything. How did that go? How many of you guys have an iPhone in your hand, in your pocket? Right? When I worked at Samsung, it was the same thing. How many phones do we sell per minute was one of our engagements that we had internationally. But if you look at 2007, when I worked with Steve, it was an amazing time in my career. I don't remember him that way. I remember him this way. I don't know why. I don't know him at this time. But for whatever reason, that young visionary sticks out in my head. I never thought of Steve as the older guy in the last few years prior to his passing. I sat there and looked at him as that guy. When you engaged with him, the first thing you did when you walked into a room was you left your phone and your Mac and your notebook at the door. There were no papers because he wanted you to engage. It was that type of environment and working with him. Well, as we talk about 2007, how did that work out in sales for Apple and Microsoft? You'll see the green line, or the blue line pop up. Apple sales skyrocketed. What happened to Microsoft? Pretty well just continued the same pace that they were. But think about it for a second. A guy who had an idea, who changed his mind to create something that nobody had ever seen before. This device that changed our life, didn't it? What if I tell you, I'm going to go out on record here just for a minute for the folks that are in the room. The phones are going into the same generation as the dinosaur. In our lifetime, we won't see them anymore. Mobile phones are going away very, very quickly. But we'll talk about that in here in just a few minutes. As we move forward, something happened to us in that exploration of 20 years and the explosion of technology. What happened to us? Just a few years ago, right? The world shut down. I know I was working in Korea. I was working in Hong Kong, working in Shanghai. Everything shut down. March 15th, 2000. So if you look at that, what happened we found that people said that 44%, almost half the younger age of the consumers from age 18 to 40, said they still don't feel comfortable going into a physical environment, including retail stores. Outside of education, then I've learned so much from you guys. If you look at that particular environment as it relates to retail, as it relates to hotels, as it relates to your workplace, what we saw was an exponential shift in work, life, and play because people were changing. Let's talk about those people for a second. For the first time in history, there are 5 generations of people in the workforce. If you look at these people, the traditionalists, we know them. As you go down the line from the boomers, Gen X, the millennials, and then that group that they have different names. Centennials, Gen Z, I've heard all kinds of them. Then you have Gen Alpha coming right behind them. We'll have 6 generations in the workplace for the first time in history. And think about how that works for us. People that are in our particular world right now, when they first started, they were making $1,900 a year. Houses were $6,500 during that time frame. Now, fast forward. Average salary, $59,000. Average price of a house, $402,000. So how do you compare with people like this? With people that were born in 1946 that are leading our companies? And the people that are coming into the workforce with technology, with a different rate of salary, not having that same exposure to the people that, say, even I did. Let's focus on a minute for these 3 particular groups and why it's important. Everybody wants to talk about tech is changing our lives and how things are evolving. But I'm going to hit you with a stat that many of you might not be aware of. 31% of the population is boomers, 21% of the population is Gen X, 45% of the population are millennials. This fact at the bottom is the one that scares me to death. By the year 2030, for the first time in history, the older generation will outnumber the younger in the workforce. So when people say the technology is shaping everything how we're doing moving forward, are we really moving forward because the younger generation wants the tech or because we need it? Let's stop there for a second. I'll just call it out for a second. Millennials, want to raise your hand? Please, don't be shy. I got a story to tell here. So think about it for a second. I tell the older generation, you are going to become extremely valuable to your employer in the next 15 years. Why? Because we've heard the news, the American labor force is deteriorating at a rate that we've never seen before. But not just that. 2/3 of the millennials that are in the workforce today will leave their jobs in the next 3 years and move to another. So now you've got deteriorating labor, you've got tech moving fast, you've got an older generation that's staying in the workplace longer, and you've got a group of individuals that are leaving their jobs every 3 years. Okay? We've got a lot to deal with every day, don't we? Especially, I heard earlier this morning in the CXO about how generational labor is going to be impacted by transitional labor, how people are leaving sooner. Then we have these guys. All of a sudden, everybody wants to be an Instagram influencer. Have you ever noticed that? I'm going to step away from my life and from labor and all that other stuff that other people did 25, 30 years ago. I'm going to go make money on Instagram. Hey, it works. Why not? So you have other things that are complicating it as well. Where does this leave us? Anybody want to take a guess? I'm not meaning to scare everybody today. It does get better. Our day-to-day ecosystem's colliding. It's colliding. Every bit of it is colliding. This conference is proof of that particular concept. Marketing, education, health, CXO. All of our particular industries are colliding. What we're seeing with our clients is the same thing. Everybody's saying, how do we do it differently? But yet, the hybrid work model comes into play. How are people happier at home? Some don't want to go to work. A lot of people want to go to work. How do I have that kind of morphed into how we live every day, et cetera? But if you look at the environments, when we deal in design charrettes, you're hearing constant buzzwords. You guys like buzzword bingo? I worked at Samsung for 6 years. Buzzword bingo was every day, okay? You hear about visionary, you hear about sense of community, you hear about experiences being sticky. When we in moments of discovery, the charrette would tell us how we were creating the next generation of product and how we were creating the next generation of these particular customer experiences. We created Samsung 837 with brilliant people like Tim Gudgel, Wonderwall, Gensler Architects. I got to call out them. Angela Moody's here, one of my coworkers. It was an experience where people said, wow, Samsung is going to put 56,000 square feet together in the meatpacking district in downtown Manhattan, and we're not going to sell a single thing. Try selling that into the Koreans. That was not easy, okay? I can only tell you that the consumer's experience is no longer defined by a single moment of purchase. It's a journey using a collective series of engagements. But that particular journey and ecosystem is changing again. It's not about individuals having a conversation or individuals working with a phone or a series of IoT devices working together. Think bigger. It's about cities. It's about landscapes. It's about universities. It's about a series of engagements within an entire metroplex. The next evolution in the next 10 years will change how cities are designed and developed. And it started 25 years ago. But what you're seeing is the engagement model is similar to what we've already done. We're just expanding it. We'll talk about the city of the future here in a little bit. Innovation's happening at a pace that you've never seen before. But you've got to make sure that you're understanding that innovation is constant. It's ever evolving. When I say I wanted you to do one thing today, I want you to change your mind. Because you're going to be changing your mind for the people involved in CapEx once a year, every 6 months. You're going to have to constantly try and adapt and overcome how you deal with your consumers. Because your consumers are changing. Portable, if not non-existent tech, will replace the phone in the future. Retail experiences like never before, where people are engaged with RFIDs and handheld sensors, where people are looking at different experiences and products and engaging with them in a different manner. This same application is being applied in hotels. It's being applied in some educational efforts with how people can help others learn faster. But tech is moving at a faster pace than ever before. And I'm not even talking about AI yet. Okay? AI is a data-driven effort outside of how it can provide the future. But we'll talk about AI. I'm going to a little teaser there into one of my other sessions that's happening this week. I don't want to get too caught up in AI just yet. If we look at the various efforts, my apologies, the screen over here is a little easier to see some of the verbiage down at the bottom. I can tell you that creative to adaptation to conversion is not easy. Okay, those three words are very different words. It's not that hard to create a concept. It's not that hard to create an environment. I have this great idea. We engage with folks like you guys all the time who have great ideas, but don't know how to go to market with them. But it's not easy to take that render and make it into a reality. And our numbers at Samsung proved that our model worked. The conversion model worked where people were associating our products and loving them in a different way than they did before. So what's next? Smart walls. Anybody like Tony Stark, Iron Man? Right? Remember that stuff? I'm a big Tony Stark fan, okay? I don't know why, just loved his movies. Anyway, remember that movie where he was taking particular information out of his phone and throwing it up on a wall? It was like, oh my gosh, that's so high tech. That was 10 years ago for us. Okay? interactive walls where I can take design concepts and renders and draw details on a wall while others are in San Francisco or Hong Kong or London or Budapest looking at my drawings while I'm drawing them? 10 or 15 years ago. It's an amazing sequence that we put together at the Samsung building. And I would say that it was humbling to work with a ton of the gifted individuals in the company. I can only say that for sure. Some of the other things you guys have seen in the news, you've seen the chips, companies that are putting chips in some of their employees for security, for auto pay purposes with handhelds, auto screening, medical alerts, athletic trainings. I don't know if it's ever going to go anywhere. I don't know if chipsets within people are actually going to work, but people are thinking that far ahead as far as what could change and what might happen in the future. What did we see just 6 years ago in China? Where a modification of a identification system in glass was identifying people within milliseconds. You guys remember Black Mirror, one of my favorite shows to watch because of all the tech stuff? Well, Black Mirror, remember the dog in the show? Well, what just happened in LA 2 weeks ago? The SWAT team rolled out the robot dog. Okay? I don't know about you, but that thing scares me, right? I wouldn't want to be a bad guy in LA when that thing comes rolling up around my neighborhood. How's that? But what people thought of before is now happening. So think of those items that they're working on that hasn't happened yet. Sorry about that. Not all tech is converted into reality from an acceptance standpoint. Paper phone, pick up your grocery drive-throughs, that kind of came and went quickly. RFID stores, you walk in, you walk out. Some people love them, some people don't. But the shocking thing is, if you look at the percentage, tech adaptation in retail is happening at a slower pace than people realized. 55% of the population love to use their phone to pay. 65% of the people want to have drive-through groceries or have them delivered. 43% want a cashless or engagement-less store that Target test modeled previously. But what had happened in addition to that, automated distribution, robotics, is advancing. So let's go back 10 minutes ago. I told you the population is changing. We're changing how we work. We're changing how we're living. We're changing how we're playing. Tech is moving here, and tech is increasing to pick up the slack because the labor force is changing how we work. So tech is rapidly moving into an engagement model that we haven't seen before. Enter in companies like Adabotics, like DaVinci, like Fabric. When you look at automated distribution, micro-fulfillment in the age of direct-to-consumer is happening at a faster rate than you've ever seen before. Where vertical displacement of product is offsetting the number of people that have to work in a warehouse. Where product can be picked to the numbers 110, 120, Jeff, what was it, 130,000 items per day out of a small 14,000 square foot, 36 cubic feet, 36,000 cubic feet space. 110,000 items per day can be picked at somebody's doorstep. All manned by 4 people. So everybody always says, Ron Johnson and I talked about this years ago, and he's a brilliant guy at Apple. I'm going to segue for a second. Ron had the greatest thing that he ever said to me was, think back years ago when Kmart was created. Kmart was going to finish the world. It was over. Nobody could beat Kmart. Well, Kmart and Walmart spinned off a bunch of different concepts, didn't it? Then Amazon came along. Amazon's going to change the world. They're going to dominate. It's over. But people adapted. We changed how we worked. We changed how we executed in market. You're seeing the change happen in real life. Amazon's single biggest issue that they're having to overcome is the 3PL labor force, which is doing what again? Right? Okay. So now you see Amazon getting into robotics. They have to. You have to adapt. You have to change your mind that your plan may or may not be long sustaining. It might be only for a short amount of time. So what's this guy Anybody know this guy named Bill Gates? Yeah, we've heard of him. If you ask Bill Gates who's Michael Koch, he's going to be like, who? Bill Gates decided to take a ton of money, rumored, in the north Arizona desert, roughly about 25,000 acres, $80 million in design development costs. He wanted to come up with the city of the future idea from a design standpoint, smart factories, 5 and even 10G integration. Everybody's like, 5G, oh my gosh. I remember when I was at Samsung when 5G was first introduced by Samsung to Sprint. And then it rolled out to AT&T and others down the road. What about this thing down the bottom left-hand corner? Wireless power. There are companies out there that are pioneering wireless power. Anybody had to charge your phone today? You got to plug it in, right? What if you just set it on your table? Set it on your table and device charges. No cables. That's being created, folks. It's being brought to life. You're going to see wireless power. Ready? There you go. There's my ESP working. I think we're going to have wireless power roll out in scale in the next 20 to 30 years. But the man that created wireless power 100 years ago is some guy named Tesla. Remember Nikola Tesla? So here we are 100 years later, we're still trying to figure out if it works. It's going to happen. There are companies that display at CES. If you've never seen it, go look at it. It's going to pioneer your classrooms. It's going to pioneer your house. It's going to pioneer your work area. It's going to pioneer wherever you go. Displays without cables. It's a truly inventive idea. The city of the future is coming quickly. It's coming faster than people realize. Hotels are going to change. Conventions are going to change. How we integrate and how we talk to each other and how we work with each other is going to change at a rapid speed. The city of the future is not far away. It's not. Autonomous urban mobility, fluid pickup, micro fulfillment, sprawl planning, minimal footprint, full AI adaptive environments and integration. And then lastly, wireless power. Granted, this is my opinion. Based upon the folks that I engage with on a week-to-week basis, I see where this is going. I see how they talk to each other. When I sit in board meetings and I hear what's important to them, I can understand what they're trying to drive in the future. So what does that look like? Without further ado, autonomous urban mobility, waving your hand to pick up, cars coming up, picking up, making it a personalized pickup service. We're kind of there right now. It's something called Uber, but Uber's got an evolution that they have to change into. Private interior, intuitive controls, systemic areas to pick up. Privacy, safety comes into mind. Obviously, green environments come into mind as well. Making these areas efficient for the environment. But when you look at the other things that we're talking about, minimal footprints, it's adaptive, it's modular. You're going to see this creation of modular cities very soon because they have to. It's not just because we want to, it's because we have to create modularization because the labor force needs something that makes it a little bit easier for us to build. Integrated into public transport, you're going to see things like you've never seen before. I can't begin to thank my friends over at Territory Studio enough for thinking of the future and putting it into some sort of design render where people can understand what the city of the future might look like. But micro-fulfillment and distribution of product has a big part in that coming up in the future. I guess as we come closer to the end of the section, as we're trying to stay on time, the rule of thumb is constant change. Just get used to it. If you think what you're doing a month from now is the same as you were doing 3 months ago, you're kidding yourself. Does anybody remember what was important to them a year ago? How different is it as of today? 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 17 years ago when the iPhone was created. And now we have iPhone Pro Max 15. It's amazing some of the things that we change and move forward with in our life. Easy. Anybody wonder what it's like to drive side of the road and then one day you know, and change it to the other side or vice versa. You ever been over in Europe, some of those countries? Like I lived in London for a while, and I was not a good driver in London. Okay, what's it like to drive on the opposite side of the road? I mean, heart rate goes up. Luckily, I didn't hit anybody. But what about those people that decide that they just wanted to change? They changed their mind. I give you Stockholm, 1960. When they said, we're going to change to drive on the other side of the road. Change is not easy. As you can see in this picture, it's not going to be easy to change how you work, how you live, and how you play. It's going to be very, very different in the next 10 years. It's true, our experiences, our visions, and all of our relationships define us. I know I have a lot of time for questions today, but come see me in my booth. I'll tell you everything I can tell you outside of the NDAs that they have me sign. But I can tell you that our relationships define us. They also are going to define how we work, how we live, how we play. I can't stress that enough. My question to you is, how is all those things going to define you? Your life is going to change as you move forward. Every day, ordinary people everywhere do extraordinary things. They do. Go to the classroom every day. Go to work every day. Influence your children. I'm going to ask you to do one thing today outside of changing your mind about how you live, how you work, and how you play. I'm going to ask you to simply be extraordinary in every single thing you do with your family, your friends, your children, your coworkers. Just take a moment to step back and be more extraordinary today than you were yesterday. It's been a privilege to talk to you guys today. I'm here to answer any questions you have moving forward. Thank you very much.